Hello guys, welcome back to LR Anime. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Today is explanation of Soul Land 2 episode number 123 based on novel. So let's start. How is this possible? Kane was astonished. However, she had no choice but to resist the attack. She clawed at the air, creating a dark golden light projection. Her wings also opened to their maximum span behind her. However, a cool hand pressed against her back just as she was about to use her strongest defense to resist this attack. None of her team had expected such a huge change to occur. They would still have had a chance if Kane managed to destroy the Eye of Fear. However, Kane and Shu Sanchi's positions were suddenly switched at the perfect moment. At this point, Qin Yeye completed her accumulation and slashed down with her blade. Her target was now Kane, who was momentarily lost after she switched positions with Shu Sancha. The cool hand contained the snowless glacier. Kane knew she was in deep trouble. Everything had happened too quickly. The mysterious underworld displacement had the same effect as instant teleportation. Zhang Zhon thought he was seeing things as everything changed. There was no time to react. Everyone from the Tang Sect knew that they had one. As this strike was unleashed, Huo Yuhao also completed another attack. Purplish gold light flashed in his eyes before Xuebing screamed pathetically from afar. He was already weakened, but his martial soul true body was immediately dispelled under the attack of Huo Yuhao's spiritual shock. The Three Lives Soul Crush Cauldron immediately divided into three separate cauldrons before the cauldron quake was unleashed on him. Xuebing was locked in place. At this point, Jiang Nannan was already in front of him, and she kicked him in the chest. He was immediately overcome when Jiang Nannan got close to him. Even Huo Yuhao believed that they had won this round. Furthermore, Kane was surely going to be killed under the combined attack of Qin Yeye and the Snow Lady. The snowless glacier could kill a soul sage, given enough time to accumulate. Kane was only a six-ringed soul emperor. The combination of the mysterious underworld displacement and the Snow Lady was too strong. However, something changed at this moment. Kane's body cracked as she was struck by the Snow Lady's palm, before being hit by the blade lights. She instantly split into three parts, which flew off in three different directions. These three figures turned into three dark golden bats in the air. One of the bats turned a deep blue after flying less than 3 meters. After that, it broke apart. The other two bats quickly flew in two different directions. One of them headed for Huo Yuhao, while the other flew towards Xuebing, who was being restrained by Jiang Nannan. What's this? Huo Yuhao was also shocked. The bat flying towards him had a wingspan of 3 meters. There was a dark golden circular ring on its neck, and it screeched as it got close to Huo Yuhao. This screech caused Huo Yuhao to enter a momentary trance. Following this, the back of the bat shone with a streak of bloody light. A projection that looked exactly like another bat appeared and plunged towards Huo Yuhao's chest. This skill was 60 to 70% similar to the blood shadow human puppet that Adler had used against Wang Dong'er. Although Huo Yuhao was in a momentary trance, his reaction was still very quick. A huge, half-transparent light shield blocked his body. The blood-red eyes of the bat seemed to be filled with disdain. Didn't Wang Dong'er tell Huo Yuhao that the blood shadow human puppet was able to ignore any form of defense? However, the body of the bat turned rigid in the next instant. The bloody red projection collided with the shield. It didn't manage to penetrate through, and even staggered after it struck the shield. Milky white glows surfaced on the shield, and seemed to form a smiley face. Following this, an exact copy of the blood-colored bat projection was deflected away directly towards the dark golden bat. The dark golden bat screamed in pain before creating a dim golden light projection behind it. This projection changed into spots of golden light that surged towards the shield. To both parties, their opponent was using very weird abilities. Neither of them expected the other party to possess such abilities. Kane escaped death, but she didn't feel very well after being attacked repeatedly. Wang Dong'er and the Snow Lady were still beside Huo Yuhao. The dark golden bat was stalled for a while after it was hurt by the shield. This momentary delay offered time for Wang Dong'er's butterfly goddess slash to cut towards the bat. A huge ball of light instantly changed into 108 blades that surrounded the bat. Another strange scene appeared again. The dark golden bat blew apart again and changed into countless smaller bats that absconded in different directions, managing to escape from the very concentrated attack of the butterfly goddess slash. However, not all of them managed to escape, as a few of the smaller bats were still killed. On the other side, the other dark golden bat was in a much better situation. The blood shadow human puppet changed its target to Jiang Nannan, and she had no choice but to escape. Xiao Xiao directly used one of her cauldrons to cover Jiang Nannan, which blocked off the puppet's attack. However, in doing so Kane also managed to alleviate Xuebing's crisis. All these changes happened extremely quickly. Qin Yeye only managed to retract her blade after Xuebing had already been saved. However, a streak of red light that exuded a terrifying aura descended from the sky at this moment. This time, its target was Qin Yeye. No matter how capable Kane was, she couldn't save Qin Yeye after she was repeatedly attacked and forced to save Xue Bing. Zheng Zhan reacted again and blocked the attack for Qin Yeye. At the same time, he announced her elimination. 2 out of the original 6 members from the Clearjade sect were eliminated. It was the Eye of Fear's turn to demonstrate its strength again, and after firing, it started to accumulate its strength again. He Kai-Tu also unleashed his attack. Countless soul rays and cannon shells were fired towards Xue Bing and Kane. On the other side, Shu Sanxia landed right in between Qing Qing and Chen Jun. This was going to be a clash between shields. Boom! Their shields collided with a startlingly loud impact. While Chen Jun's shield was much bigger than Shu Sanxi's shield, he was much inferior in terms of strength. After the collision, he took several steps back, very unsteady on his feet. Qing Qing was alert, and quickly retreated. The lights released from her scepter were now directed at Chen Jun. Shu Sanxia snorted, and his shield shone with a layer of black light. His entire body was also dyed black as his third soul ring shone brightly. Let me deal with these two. With his abilities as a soul emperor, it would be very embarrassing if he couldn't deal with 2 soul kings. He was once regarded, along with Bei Bei, as one of the new generation Gemini of Shrek Academy. Hua Yuhao didn't rush to attack. He exploited He Kai-Tu's wide area attack, and all of them gathered together into their formation once again. Wang Donga replaced Shu Sanxia, while Xiao Xiao and Jiang Nannan were at her sides. He Kai-Tu and Hua Yuhao were now behind her. Lastly, Nana was behind Hua Yuhao now as she pushed his wheelchair in place of Wang Donga. From the start until now, Nana hadn't made a single move. In fact, Nana was a little unfamiliar in terms of her abilities and coordination with Shrek's 7 monsters. Hua Yuhao's mission for her was to cover for everyone. If their opponents crept around the backside, her job was to slow them down. What martial soul is that? Nana asked. Hua Yuhao shook his head. He was also unsure what Kane's martial soul was. However, the result of this team round had already been decided. The only thing was that they hadn't fully accomplished their goal yet. The Clearjade sect team was definitely stronger than they had expected. Donga, Hua Yuhao called out gently. Yes, Wang Donga nodded gently in reply. Their minds connected, and she understood what he wanted even as he spoke. An intense beam of golden light rose from Wang Donga's body. Her upper body bent back, her waist supported her as she formed a bow shape with her body. She grabbed onto Hua Yuhao's shoulders with her hands and did a handstand on his body. The rest of the Tang sect quickly separated to the side. The air seemed to freeze at this point. Countless streaks of blinding light started to spew out from Hua Yuhao and Wang Donga. Time seemed to stop at this moment too. The radiant butterfly goddess golden blue wings expanded rapidly. Almost instantly, their size doubled. Originally, she only had front and rear wings, but right now, there was an additional pair of jade green wings in the middle. They were smooth, shiny, and dazzling. A strong aura of life came from this additional pair of wings, as if they were saying that the true meaning of life was light and water. Their aura of life complemented her aura of light. As the dazzling wings opened up, blue, golden, and green lights seemed to shine with countless other colors. There seemed to be countless beads of gently rolling water on the wings. They refracted all the light shining from them. Countless streaks of light shone brightly, and layers of frost were released as well, starting from the bottom of her feet. They made her slender figure appear even more elegant. As the frost spread, everything around her seemed to turn into a world of ice and snow. As the chilly aura spread, Hua Yuhao and Wang Donga's fused body also started to shockingly transform. Hua Yuhao disappeared, and a slender figure quietly appeared amid the tricolored glow. It was a lady that seemed to have already matured, more than 180 centimeters tall. Her slender figure was extremely captivating. She had long, powdery blue hair that flowed all the way to her feet. Her eyes were a bright gold, and her figure was beyond perfect. Her ravishing looks made all the ladies present pale in comparison. Every streak of light and every curve on her body complemented the other. No one could describe how they felt when they first saw her. However, everyone's attention was captured by her the instant she appeared. She moved in the next moment. She leapt gently forward with her left leg, and her slender figure was suddenly halfway in the air. Her tricolored butterfly wings brought her skywards effortlessly. Thick icy fog spread from her legs and turned into streaks surrounding her as she rose. A ray of sunlight descended from the sky and landed straight on her like a spotlight from the heavens. The golden glow accentuated her figure even further, and she seemed like a goddess, born amid the light. As she danced in the air, every step she took was gentle and perfect. Her moving looks were covered by the glow of life and hope, and her 6 wings were the best accessories she could possibly have. The raiment of light was revealed as she was covered by the warm sunshine. The ravishing figure started to perform a solitary dance amid the icy fog. Her tricolored wings extended and retracted, making her elegance even more dazzling. A subtle golden talisman silently appeared on her forehead. As light flashed from the talisman, it revealed a gentle glow. Intense spiritual undulations caused her to enter a miraculous state. Solitary dance amidst the frost, raiment of light. Just like in the last round of the tournament in the Star Luo Empire, everyone was astonished when the goddess of light appeared. Everyone's gaze was focused on her. They couldn't believe that a person could be so beautiful. As the dazzling, tricolored wings opened up, the goddess of light took a step forward and seemed to shrink space about her. She advanced several dozen meters and appeared in front of the opponents that had survived the explosion. The two remaining dark golden bats gathered together. A light flashed, and they formed a larger bat. However, this bat had 2 heads. In fact, it was more accurate to say that it had 3 heads. It was just that one was only left with the stump of a neck, there wasn't any head left. Evidently, it must have had been struck off by the snowless glacier. Everyone from the Tang Sect finally realized what Kane's martial soul was. It was an extremely rare but top-ranked martial soul, the dark golden 3-headed Bat King. It wasn't only strong, it was a terrifying martial soul that only appeared after a mutation occurred. In the world of soul masters, it was a powerful martial soul that had previously only existed in legend. Right now, Kane was definitely in her martial soul true body. Her trump card was similar to Xue Bing. They both used soul tools to forcefully enhance themselves to reach their martial soul true body state. However, they were both spent right now, and it was very difficult for them to maintain their martial soul true bodies anymore. After all, their martial soul true bodies had been forced to manifest. Compared to real martial soul true bodies, they could at most unleash 60% of their maximum abilities in such a state. However, 60% of Kane's maximum abilities was enough to save her life. Otherwise, the combination of the snowless glacier and executioner's blade would have killed her. As the goddess of light opened her wings, an extremely chilly aura was released. Wang Donga and Hu Yuhao didn't just possess 2 and 3 rings like they had the last time they unleashed the solitary dance amidst the frost in a tournament. They were very strong now. Without any warning, a snowstorm was unleashed, with the goddess of light at the center of it. 3 people were immediately engulfed by this snowstorm, and those on the outside couldn't see what was happening. Yes, it was the snowy dance of ultimate ice. The goddess of light was Hu Yuhao and Wang Donga's last martial soul fusion skill because it wasn't an attack that could only be used one time. They could attack continuously and unleash their complete fighting strength. They weren't able to maintain such strength or use so much power in the past. However, the goddess of light was able to unleash all of their abilities now. It wasn't their martial soul true body. It was stronger than a martial soul true body. The referee, Zheng Zhon, cursed and immediately rushed in the direction of the snowy dance of ultimate ice. As he couldn't see what was going on, he couldn't tell what they were up to. It was a dazzling martial soul fusion skill. He didn't expect them to have such a trick up their sleeves. Inside the snowy dance of ultimate ice, Kane and Xue Bing felt as if they had entered an extremely chilly world. They even felt their blood solidifying in the cold. As their blood flow slowed, they felt the circulation of their soul power also dropping significantly. Xue Bing had been thrown onto the floor several times by Jiang Nannan earlier, and could feel his body breaking apart. His soul power was almost depleted after 2 consecutive fights. Against the extreme cold, he could only forcefully circulate his soul power to resist the snowflakes that resembled sharp knives. Kane was in a better state. However, one of her bat heads had been destroyed. This hurt her martial soul, and she couldn't recover from this in a day or 2 like normal. It was just like Xiao Xiao when her 3 lives soul crush cauldron had been crushed. She might even not recover completely at all. Kane let out a piercing scream. It was her terror scream again. She didn't expect her skill to hurt the goddess of light, she was only trying to find her opponent. She didn't want to rush out blindly. In this snowblind world, she couldn't possibly get her directions right. She didn't know where her enemy was, and she still had to protect Xue Bing. Thus, she didn't dare to act recklessly. "Don't waste your energy. Don't worry, I won't kill the 2 of you," a moving voice sounded. The frost seemed to split, revealing a ravishing figure slowly walking toward them. Even though they were in harsh conditions, Xue Bing's eyes widened in shock when he saw the goddess of light. He couldn't believe that there was someone so perfect in this world. The dark golden 3-headed Bat King's wings opened wide, and Kane burst towards the goddess of light like a bolt of lightning. She knew that their surroundings would return to normal as long as she could defeat the goddess of light. It was a pity that she was engulfed by a beam of golden and blue light less than 5 meters after she moved. It was a hexagram array that now also carried the ultimate ice. Within this snowy dance of ultimate ice, the aura that it released was entirely concealed. The dark golden 3-headed Bat King struggled indignantly. Xue Bing also tried to stand up and resist further. However, they were in very weak states right now. Outside the snowy dance of ultimate ice, 3 huge cauldrons blocked the unbreakable Doluo Zhengzhon as he rushed out. One of the cauldrons was stacked on top of the other 2 cauldrons. Referee, You can't interfere since victory hasn't been decided yet, Xiao Xiao spoke out. Right now, they had already gathered on the other side to aid Shu Sanxia in his formation. Get lost. Zheng Zhon shouted in fury. He clapped his hands, and a wave of dominant soul power swept the cauldrons to one side. However, the terrifying red in the sky appeared once again as he tried to burst towards the snowy dance of ultimate ice. Zheng Zhon turned pale, and he was about to curse. Even though he was a titled Do Luo, he couldn't separate his body like the dark golden three-headed Bat King. On the one hand, he couldn't tell what the situation was like inside the snowstorm. On the other, he was afraid of someone else dying if they were struck by the terrifying ray. He was left with no choice. His figure flashed, and he blocked the attack on Qing Qing, also announcing that she had been eliminated. Chen Jun was kicked out a few seconds after Qing Qing. Even though his shield had many special skills, he didn't stand a chance with his inferior cultivation. Shu Sanxi's Turtle God's strike helped him destroy his opponent's shield directly. If not for Zheng Zhon's intervention, Chen Jun's body would also have been crushed. As this slight delay happened, the snowy dance of ultimate ice on the other side also spread out and began to vanish. The goddess of light danced. Her wings opened and turned into a streak of flowing light that moved straight towards the golden tree wheelchair. At this point, there were 2 ice sculptures left within the area covered by the snowy dance of ultimate ice. Kane had already regained her original look. She was actually an attractive young lady with a weirdly pale complexion. Xuebing was in a more tragic state. There was huge wounds on his chest and belly. However, these injuries couldn't be seen clearly, as he was frozen. Referee, we've won. The goddess of light turned back into 2 people as a final light flashed. Huo Yuhao was quietly sitting in his wheelchair, while Wang Donga was standing in front of him. The 2 of them looked at each other and smiled. Zheng Zhon quickly rushed in front of the 2 ice sculptures. After a few attempts, he realized he couldn't melt them free. The 2 ice sculptures were very hard, and their temperatures were extremely low. He didn't dare to forcefully break the ice. If he did so, the 2 of them would die very quickly. Quickly, defrost them. Zheng Zhon quickly came over in front of Huo Yuhao and Wang Donga. Huo Yuhao appeared very weak. I'm sorry. Referee, my soul power isn't sufficient, so I can't melt them. Don't worry, their lives won't be in danger, as the temperature of ultimate ice is very low. When my soul power recovers, I can help to melt them. Their pulse just has to be restarted before they can regain their life power. In this state, they won't die even after a year. Life, Zheng Zhon was helpless as he looked at Huo Yuhao. Huo Yuhao smiled as he said, isn't it great that we've removed one more strong opponent for the Sun Moon Imperial Soul Engineering Academy? Wang Donga added, you should announce that we've won. Zheng Zhon took in a deep breath. He knew that there were some things that a referee like him couldn't do. If they didn't want to melt the 2 of them, what could he do? It was the ultimate ice. No one on the continent would dare to melt these ice sculptures. The Tang Sect wins the team round, and this match, Tang Sect, 9 points. Clearjade Sect, 7 points. Victory. The Tang Sect progressed to the next round. What have you done to our captain and vice-captain? The substitutes for the Clearjade Sect, as well as Yu Chen, Qin Yeye, Chen Jun, Qing Qing and the rest, surrounded them as they descended from the stage. Huo Yuhao smiled and said, they will be fine. After a few days, I'll defrost them when my soul power recovers. In a few days? Why does your soul power take so long to recover? Qin Yeye was furious as she glared at Huo Yuhao. Huo Yuhao sighed and said, I'm sorry. Can't you see that I'm crippled? It's already not easy for me to compete. Furthermore, I'm the only one who can defrost them. Please be nicer to me. Otherwise, I'll leave them frozen forever. Chen Jun said, how long will it take before you are willing to defrost them? If you take too long, their lives will be in danger. Huo Yuhao said, 3 days. I'll take at most 3 days before I defrost them. You must give me some time to rest. 3 days. Won't they miss the next round if it takes 3 days? Everyone from the Clearjade Sect looked extremely furious and resentful. However, they were helpless. Jing Xian and Ji Juechen had already arrived at this point. Ji Juechen lifted his judgment sword and coolly said, there's still another way. If any one of you can beat me in a duel, he can also help to defrost your captain and vice-captain. After everyone from the Clearjade Sect heard his words, their eyes brightened. Chen Jun asked, are you going to stay true to your promise? He was staring at Huo Yuhao instead of Ji Juechen. Huo Yuhao's expression turned weird, and he nodded his head. He said, yes. He's with us. If you can defeat him, I'll defrost your captain and vice-captain. Let's go. Let's find a place, everyone from Clearjade Sect shouted quickly. Jing Xian chuckled and responded, we don't have to go to too much trouble. It's the suburbs, anyway. We just need to move a bit further from the tournament venue. If he loses, Yu Hao will defrost them when we return to the Mingyu Hotel. Let's go. After seeing Ji Juechen off, Jing Xian left with everyone from the Clearjade sect. Hu Yuhao shook his head helplessly. Wang Donga was amused. It's my first time hearing Brother Ji speak so much. Hu Yuhao sighed and said, he must have been holding it in for too long. Originally, I wanted to freeze those two fellows for a few days and let them off only after they finished their fight with Team Shrek. However, it seems like they won't even have 7 members available for the fight the day after even if I defrost those two now. Nana, can you follow them and tell Brother Ji not to kill anyone? We have no enmity with the Clearjade sect. Yes. Nana hurried after them. After this fight, the Tang sect was recognized as a dark horse in this tournament. They managed to emerge victorious in 2 fights even though their opponents were strong. In addition, no one from their side was injured. This series of results made them one of the favorites to win their group. There were a lot of people who were guessing how the Tang sect would fare against Shrek Academy. However, it was still too early to say. That was because the Tang sect and Shrek Academy were only facing off in the last match of their group. Shrek Academy's schedule was very kind to them. They were going to face Team Sun Moon in their penultimate match. Before that, they didn't really have any strong opponents. The Clearjade sect might have potentially hurt their chances, but their encounter with the Tang sect greatly hampered their abilities. Everyone from the Tang sect returned to the hotel to rest, not staying to watch the rest of the matches. Once they reached the hotel, they received a notification that they were being moved to the second story of the hotel, into an extremely luxurious suite. This was undoubtedly the result of their performances in the tournament. Eldest senior, this was what happened. Hu Yuhao recounted the details of their fight to Bei Bei. Bei Bei nodded and said, good job. Yuhao, you are even better than me in terms of commanding the team. Continue to work hard. Hu Yuhao sighed in his heart as he saw that Bei Bei's face was still as pale as ever. Eldest senior, your condition doesn't seem to be improving. The opponents we'll be meeting in the later stages of the tournament are only going to get stronger and stronger. I'm under a lot of pressure, Bei Bei chortled and said, since when were you scared of pressure? Don't think too much, and strive forward. From what you said, our main opponents are Shrek, the Sun Moon Soul Engineering Academy, the Holy Ghost Sect, and the Unknown Body Sect. Apart from these few teams, there are the other traditional powerhouses, as well. None of them will be easy to deal with. This tournament might be the most intense competition for the past few thousand years. You just need to remember to be steady as you take each step. Hu Yuhao nodded and said, I'll do my best. Our advantage is still quite great. However, it's difficult to judge our opponent's abilities. As the tournament continues, our opponents will also slowly learn about our trump cards. Their analysis and research of us will be more thorough, and it'll become increasingly difficult to advance further. Bei Bei smiled as he saw the mature look on Hu Yuhao's face. Yuhao, don't put too much pressure on yourself. We are representing the Tang sect this time. This means that we are representing ourselves too. We don't have to be bothered about our final ranking. I believe our name has spread far and wide from our last 2 performances. It won't be difficult to advance from the round-robin stage. We've actually already met our intended goals. In fact, Sancha and the others drew a good lot this time. If Shrek can advance to the quarterfinals, we'll meet them in the finals. We won't have to worry about meeting them earlier. How are things on their side? Hu Yuhao said, under Choa's guidance, their overall abilities have greatly increased. Choa's abilities seem to have become stronger too. Their first few opponents in the round-robin stage were quite easy to deal with. They are facing the Clearjade sect in their next match. We deliberately battered the Clearjade sect today. I don't think they'll be a threat to Shrek anymore. If they want to advance, we'll have to see how they fare against the Sun Moon team. It's a pity that Xiao Hongchen was too cautious and wasn't willing to challenge us in the team fight. Otherwise, we would have given them a good beating even if we had to pay a hefty price for it. Bei Bei chortled and said, we've already tried our best. We don't have to be too hard on ourselves, either. Yuhao, you still need to compete in the underground tournament tomorrow night. Quickly go and rest. All right. Hu Yuhao nodded, eldest senior, rest well too. We're looking forward to your leadership. The round-robin stage isn't too tough. You don't have to worry. However, I'm confident we can become champions if you can recover to lead us again. As he saw Hu Yuhao's grin, Bei Bei patted Hu Yuhao on his shoulder. I'll try my best. Okay. Donga, let's go. Bei Bei sat up after Wang Donga left with Hu Yuhao. His eyes brightened, and he didn't seem as fatigued as before. He sighed and said, Yuhao, I'm sorry for putting you under so much pressure. However, I have no choice. Good luck. With you around, the Tang sect will only become stronger and stronger no matter what happens to me. The Star Luo National Academy Resting Lounge. Princess Jojo was quietly sitting in the main seat, the other team members of the academy in the room with her. They had just won in the afternoon and achieved 2 consecutive victories in their last 2 fights. I didn't expect the Tang sect to still be so strong, even though Hu Yuhao is in a wheelchair and Bei Bei hasn't appeared. They were still able to defeat their opponents easily even though their opponents consisted of 2 Soul Emperors and 5 Soul Kings. They aren't easy to deal with. One young man who was seated just beside Princess Jojo smiled and said, "Your Highness, they are the champions from the last tournament. It wouldn't be right if they didn't perform well. However, don't worry. Even if we meet them in the quarterfinals, we might not lose to them." If the Tang Sect reached the quarterfinals, it was very likely they would meet the runners-up of Star Luo National Academy. Apart from the Star Luo National Academy, the Holy Ghost Sect was also in their group. As a result, the Star Luo National Academy was fighting to finish as runners-up. "You are so confident." Princess Jojo looked across at him. The young man smiled and said, "In fact, every team should be able to tell that the Tang Sect is strong, but their weakness is that they don't have a preparatory squad. This tournament is very intense. Who can guarantee that none of them will get injured? In my opinion, I don't think it'll be smooth sailing for them all the way." Princess Jojo was a little cold as she said, "What about us? Do you think we can make it out of the quarterfinals?" The young man's expression turned rigid. "Your Highness, forgive me for being direct. Our opponents in this tournament are very strong. If we can make it out of the round-robin stage, it's because our group is easy." Princess Jojo glared at him. He remained very calm, and wasn't suppressed by her aura. At this point, someone knocked on the door. "Come in." Shu Jojo shifted her attention. The door opened, and a fearless-looking middle-aged man walked quickly to Shu Jojo. He whispered something in her ear. "What? Do they really dare to?" Shu Jojo's eyes were filled with astonishment. "Continue to investigate. I want accurate information." The weather in Radiant City had turned chilly over the past few days. After sunset, the temperature would drop significantly. Due to a few ore mines being active around Radiant City, the air quality here was worse than other places on the continent. The air would only clear up after strong winds blew. Wang Donga looked to her sides as she strolled along the streets. "I still prefer the simplicity of Shrek City. The metallic feel here is too strong." Hua Yuhao chortled as he sat in his wheelchair and said, "Me too. However, I've got to admit that the Sun Moon Empire's technological improvements are way beyond everyone else's. Otherwise, the 3 empires in the Doluor continent wouldn't be so afraid of them." Wang Donga nodded and said, "Yuhao, how inferior do you think they are in comparison to the Sun Moon Empire in terms of technology?" Hua Yuhao shook his head and said, "It's hard to tell. After all, I've no access to the top secrets of the 3 empires. Judging from the architectural styles and soul tool developments of the various empires, I believe the 3 empires are 100 years behind the Sun Moon Empire. This is even including the fact that the 3 empires have been catching up over the past 3 years. There's actually something that the Sun Moon Empire didn't do so well in." "What thing?" He Kai-Tu was curious. Hua Yuhao chortled and replied, "They can't keep their secrets well. Even the Sun Moon Empire might not have noticed it, but their technologies have been leaked quite frequently. The 3 empires in the 3 continents only needed a few decades before they managed to steal the technologies of the Sun Moon Empire, empowering their own technological development. Even though they are still inferior, which makes things a little less obvious, they might creep even closer to the Sun Moon Empire if given a few more years." He Kai-Tu appeared thoughtful as he nodded agreement and said, "You're right. At least some of the soul tools produced by the Sun Moon Empire have appeared in auctions in other parts of the continent. They are stricter in their control of rare metals, though." Hua Yuhao twisted his lips and said, "They are neglecting the fundamentals and concentrating on the details. While rare metals are rare, what if someone finds substitutes for them? Furthermore, physical force can be used to obtain rare metals. True soul tool technology is very difficult to create. If not for the fact that the Sun Moon Empire's restrictions on Class 7 and above soul tools were slightly stricter, I'm sure their gap with the other empires might be even closer." He Kai-Tu furrowed his brow and said, "Aren't we doing the same thing too? You are the most invested in it." Hua Yuhao twisted his head to look at He Kai-Tu and asked, "Second Senior, I've always wanted to ask you a question. Do you still regard yourself as part of the Sun Moon Empire?" He Kai-Tu was stunned, and turned to look at Hua Yuhao. As their gazes met, Hua Yuhao saw the emotions lurking deep in He Kai-Tu's eyes. After remaining silent for a moment, He Kai-Tu said, "Little Junior, I don't want to lie to you. That's why I'm not going to answer your question. You just need to remember that I'll always be a part of the Tang Sect and Shrek Academy. That should be enough." "Okay." Hua Yuhao stopped probing and nodded acceptance. Wang Donga was stunned by their conversation. She had always believed that He Kai-Tu was a simple, honest, and even slightly awkward person. All these were especially obvious when he was with Xiao Xiao. He was always so embarrassed, which gave off a very lovable feeling. However, she could tell from this conversation that he wasn't that simple of a person. Hua Yuhao also seemed to know something that she did not. She squeezed Hua Yuhao's shoulder gently. She had already thought about it. She was going to ask Hua Yuhao what was going on when they returned from the underground tournament. Huo Yuhao looked ahead, his gaze peaceful. He enjoyed the refreshing air. Even though it was slightly polluted, his mind was clearer in this air. The Tang Sect's abilities were slowly being revealed as they proceeded further and further along in the tournament. They were bound to have attracted attention from different parties. They were also being treated more nicely. However, this also meant that their opponents were monitoring them more closely, and were doing their research on them. Huo Yuhao wasn't very concerned about the Tang Sect's matches in the tournament. They had drawn an unfavorable lot initially, and met two strong opponents in their first two matches. If they had lost even one person, they would find it very difficult in the successive matches. However, they had achieved victory in their starting two matches. Huo Yuhao was even a bit stunned by how well they had done. He could even clearly sense that his comrades' abilities hadn't been completely demonstrated yet, and everyone was still holding back a little. Under such circumstances, it wasn't going to be a problem even if they met the Holy Ghost Sect. Would the Holy Ghost Sect even be able to threaten them? Huo Yuhao was only hoping that Bei Bei would get better. Honestly speaking, he was more willing to be the main control soul master of the team, and not the team leader. He was only ranked 6th among Shrek's 7 monsters in terms of seniority. He had 5 seniors who were older than him. To some extent, they were more suited to command the team than him. Huo Yuhao was most worried about Shrek's team right now. The Tang Sect had battered the Clearjade Sect, so they would cease to be a threat. However, the Sun Moon team was still as strong as ever. In order to advance through the round-robin stage, Shrek would have to beat them. The Sun Moon team and Shrek's team were arch-enemies. It was a fight where both parties had to give it their all. No one knew what the result was going to be. While Wang Chua was indeed very strong, she was alone. Could she really lead Shrek to victory against the Sun Moon Soul Engineering Academy and enter the quarterfinals with the Tang Sect? Even though Huo Yuhao's conscience was clear, and the Tang Sect had done everything they could to help Shrek advance, he was still very worried. He also knew that he wasn't the only one worried. All his teammates were also worried. In their hearts, Shrek's glory was as important as the Tang Sect's glory. They finally reached the Green Hotel. Huo Yuhao was in a bit of a daze, but he soon regained his focus. A proud look appeared in his eyes again, and he lifted his head slightly as he leaned back against his wheelchair's backrest. Chenan was there to receive them at the entrance of the hotel. When he saw the 4 of them, he quickly rushed up to welcome them. "You're here," Chenan said respectfully. "Yes," Huo Yuhao snorted. "What's the situation today?" Chenan replied, "There are 3 powerful soul engineers with us here today. 2 of them are Class 6 soul engineers, and the other one is a Class 7 soul engineer. They are part of the refereeing team. What about you?" Huo Yuhao looked at him. Chenan laughed bitterly. "I'm playing second fiddle to them. I only managed to come out because I mentioned that I was receiving important guests." "Oh, you're good." Huo Yuhao nodded at him, and his expression became slightly gentler. "Sir, it's like this, I didn't know what today's tournament would be like beforehand. The rules were only announced after the betting floor was opened. The 48 competitors in the previous round will be divided into 24 groups of 2, and 1 out of the 2 in each group will be eliminated. They won't have any restrictions on the soul tools they can create. We'll provide all types of rare metals and normal metals for the soul engineers to use. However, they have a time limit this time of 4 hours. After 4 hours, they must test their soul tools live in front of everyone. A soul engineer can observe his opponent's soul tool without touching it. If he discovers that his soul tool is too inferior to his opponent's soul tool, he can choose to concede defeat. If neither parties concedes defeat, they will challenge each other. They will fight with the soul tools that they created, and they won't be allowed to use any other soul tools or soul skills. The winner will advance. As he finished speaking, Chenan paused, then added, "They can kill each other." Huo Yuhao twisted his lips. "They can actually kill each other. So today's betting plate is on the winner?" Chenan nodded and said, "There are still many other events. For example, you can bet on how many fights there will be and how many people will die. Of course, the main one is on the winner. We'll be providing the odds based on the results of the previous round. These odds will change based on the wagers until the fights begin." Huo Yuhao nodded. He lifted his hand and called Nana. In front of Chen En, he said, "1 minute before the tournament begins, bet 1 million gold soul coins that I'll win." Chen En was stunned after hearing his words. It was a gamble. Huo Yuhao didn't even know who his opponent was going to be, but he bet such a large amount of himself. In addition, he would plunge the odds on him to win if he made such a bet just before today's round began. Not only was he confident, but he was also very clever. Huo Yuhao laughed and said, "I lost the other time, so I need to get some of my money back. Let's go in." Huo Yuhao's number was 66. Chenan told him his opponent was number 48. From what he had judged in the earlier round, his opponent was an outstanding Class 4 soul engineer. He might even be close to a Class 5 soul engineer. He Kaitu's number was 88, and his opponent was number 21. He was another Class 4 Soul engineer, and was slightly weaker than Hua Yuhao's opponent. When they entered the VIP lounge, Hua Yuhao saw the number 96 and 98 competitors from earlier seated in the lounge. They were a little earlier today, and they didn't bring their subordinates with them. They were talking to each other. Number 96 smiled and nodded at the four of them when they entered. Hua Yuhao returned the greeting, but the arrogant look on his face didn't disappear. Number 98 was a little colder. He was even scornful as he looked at Hua Yuhao. Chen sent the four of them into the lounge before he left. After all, there was still other stuff that he had to deal with. Wang Dong'er served Hua Yuhao a glass of fruit juice, but he only took one sip. On the other side, number 96 stood up and walked over. "How are you, my friend? Can we chat?" He bowed slightly and was very formal as he greeted Hua Yuhao. Hua Yuhao smiled and replied, "Please, take a seat." Number 96 sat beside him on the sofa, and asked very naturally, "May I know your name?" Hua Yuhao replied, "My number is 66. I know your number is 96. This video will end here. Thank you for watching.